So this type and size of the element plays a very important role in the finite element analysis. Here, there are different various types of elements that are available in finite element analysis based on what type of problem you are going to solve. For example, suppose you want to solve a one-dimensional problems, then we can go for one-dimensional elements like line element. And sometimes what happens, the problem geometry may be three-dimensional, but the loading and displacements may be in one dimension. For example, if you take a bar problem, a bar subjected to axial load, there what happens? The load is along the x-axis and the displacement is also along the x-axis. There is no displacement in y direction. So due to that, what happens, that bar problem can also be, even though that bar is a three-dimensional member, the bar problem can be assumed as a one-dimensional problem, and one-dimensional line elements can be used for that. Okay, for the this bar elements. So the type of element selected for discretization depends upon the type of analysis to be carried out and the geometry of the problem. Okay, so what type of analysis you want to carry out and what is the geometry of the problem? Geometry of the problem means the component which you want to analyze. What is the geometry of that component? Whether the component is a two-dimensional, whether the component is a three-dimensional. For example, two-dimensional means a plate, a large plate having large width and length, but very negligible thickness compared to its length and width. Then we can call them as a two-dimensional body, and it can be treated as a two-dimensional problem. Even though it is a three-dimensional plate, it can be treated as a two-dimensional problem. Okay, and I told now about the bar. So bar is again a two-dimensional body, actually, sorry, three-dimensional body, because if you take a bar, it will be having length, breadth, and height, all three, L, B, H. But if you see the loading condition and also the displacement, then what happens? It will be axially loaded and the displacement is only in x direction. So due to that, what happens? This type of elements can be used. So here, elements in finite element analysis are generally grouped into three types, three groups. That is line elements, plane or shell elements, and solid elements. Okay, so they can be grouped into three groups. That is line element, plane element, and solid element based on their shapes. Okay, not based on the type of analysis, but based on their shapes. Okay, they may be having either straight edges. Sorry, this is the edge, EDGE. They may be having either straight edges or of curved boundaries. Okay, so this line may be either a straight line or it may be a curved line also, because suppose you want to represent a curved beam, you can go for curved line. If you want to represent a curved surface or curved edge, you can go for triangle with curved edges like this. Okay, so it is not that always they will be straight line. So triangular means it will be having three edges, but the edges may be straight or it may be curved. Here it is a quadrilateral. It may be either a straight edge or it may be a curved edge, and all the sides may or may not be equal. It is not a rectangular element. It is a quadrilateral element. So, and even in this triangular element, all the sides will be having unequal lengths. Okay, based on the geometry which you want to divide. Okay, so line element is the simplest element in finite element method. Okay, and this is the line element which is used to model either a bar or a beam or a truss. Okay, suppose you want to model a simply supported beam, you can use this line element, but at each node, how many degrees of freedom it will have for a beam? For a beam, it will, for example, if suppose it is a bar, then at each node can displace only in x direction for bar. So each node will have only 1 degrees of freedom. But whereas for beams, what happens? Load will be transverse to the longitudinal axis. Due to that, what happens? Node can displace both in x direction and also in y direction. So beam, at each node, there will be 2 degrees of freedom for beam element. Okay. And for trusses also, trusses means I think you have seen our telephone towers, mobile towers. Okay, these are the large poles, and even high tension wire towers, the poles used in high tension. So the angles will be so many members are joined at an angles, no, and they are welded together at an angles. So they are called as trusses. Okay. And even in our workshop building, if you see the roof of the workshop building, you find the structures which are joined together. Okay, they are joined together, and those are called truss structures. TRUSS, truss structures. Okay, for modeling of those truss structures and modeling of beams and bars, we use this type of element. It is called as a line element, and the degrees of freedom at each node. Degrees of freedom means what? In how many directions this node can displace. Whether the node can displace in X direction only, or in X and Y direction, or in both in X, Y, and Z direction, in all three. Based on that, it will have the degrees of freedom. Suppose it can displace only in X direction, like in bars, it is called as it is having 1 degree of freedom. If it can displace in both X and Y direction, it will have 3 degrees of freedom. If along with the displacement, if it can rotate along about X axis or Y axis or Z axis, it can have that 1 more degree of freedom. So totally, if you take any object in space, it will have totally how many degrees of freedom? 6 degrees of freedom. That is 3 displacements in X direction, displacement in X direction, displacement in Y direction, and displacement in Z direction, and then rotation about X axis, rotation about Y axis, and rotation about Z axis. So each body in space will have totally maximum 6 degrees of freedom. And when you connect it together, some of the degrees of freedom gets restricted, and it will have less degrees of freedom. For example, in a bar element, it has only 1 degree of freedom. That is, it can displace only in X direction. In beam element, it can displace both in X and Y direction. So it has 2 degrees of freedom, like that. Okay. And if you see this any element, the points which connect those elements, these points, the points on the boundaries and the points which connect those elements, these are called nodes. NODE, node. Okay. And this is called as a element. And whenever we number them, nodes are numbered like this. Okay, just 1, 2, 3, like that. And elements are numbered by encircling them. Suppose this is a first element, 1, and then encircle it. Okay. So this is the element numbering scheme, and this is the node numbering scheme. Then second type of element is called as plane or shell element. Plane element means what? Plane. You can see the paper. A paper can be treated as a plane because it is having very large length and very large width, but the thickness of the paper is very less compared to its length and width. So those are all can be treated as a planes. Okay. And plane element means plane elements are the elements which are used to model that type of problem. For example, a plate with a hole. Suppose a plate is there and you want to model that plate, then we can go for this type of elements. Either a triangular element or a quadrilateral element can be used. Triangular element is a basic plane element. Okay. It is a basic plane element. Means what? Minimum 3 edges are needed to form a plane element. Okay. So that is why triangular element is a basic plane element. Whereas quadrilateral element is again a higher element. Okay. So it is having 4 edges. So only these types of shell elements are used in finite element analysis for modeling of the plates or planes. For example, boiler. Suppose boiler structure is there, or any pressure vessels. If you take that surface of the pressure vessel, if you see that thickness of that plate used for boilers and pressure vessels is very less compared to its lateral dimensions. Due to that, what happens? They can be modeled with the help of triangular and quadrilateral elements. Okay. Then a large plate with a hole, those can also be modeled with the help of triangular and quadrilateral element. So for triangular element, at each node, how many degrees of freedom will be there? at each node there will be 2 degrees of freedom minimum. That is, it can displace in both x direction and also in y direction, but displacement in z direction is negligible. So at each node there will be 2 degrees of freedom, that is x displacement and y displacement, like that. Okay, x and y. Similarly, even for a quadrilateral element also, all the plane elements, they will have 2 degrees of freedom at each node. Okay, these are used to model plates, shells and surfaces. They are of two kinds. They are of two kinds, that is triangular elements and quadrilateral elements. Triangular element is a basic plane element. Okay, then for modeling solid components, for example, suppose you want to model a piston or a connecting rod or a crankshaft or a tool post of a lathe or lathe bed, or if you take any component, then if it is a solid component and you want to analyze those solid components, we can use solid elements. Okay, like this. Solid elements are used to model solid 3D bodies or components. They are of two types. So why all these elements are used? I told you in finite element method, what we do, first process in finite element method is discretization of the given continuum. So whatever the component is given, we'll divide it into finite number of elements, no parts. So in order to divide them, what type of elements can be used, that we are studying now. Okay. So suppose it is a solid body, we can use this type of elements to divide it. Okay, that is, one is tetrahedron element and another one is hexahedron element, or it is also called as brick element or rectangular solid element. Okay. So tetrahedron element means what? It is a element having 4 triangular faces. Okay, 4 triangles are joined together. See here, this is one triangular face, this is another triangular face, backside is one more triangular face, and at the bottom there is one triangular face. So totally 4 triangular faces are joined together. So due to that, what happens? How many vertices are there? 4 vertices, and at each vertices you have to place one node. So there are totally 4 nodes, and at each node how many degrees of freedom will be there? At each node there will be
2.
This 3 degrees of freedom, that is x displacement, y displacement and also z displacement. So for a solid elements, at each node there will be 3 degrees of freedom. For plane elements, at each node there will be 2 degrees of freedom, x displacement and y displacement. For line elements, based on problem, it will have the displacement. Suppose you are using this line element as a link or a bar, then at each node there will be only 1 degree of freedom, that is x displacement. Suppose you are using this for beams, for modeling beams, it will have 2 degrees of freedom. Or suppose you are using it for trusses, it may have either 2 degrees of freedom or 3 degrees of freedom. It is on type of truss, whether the truss is a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional. Okay. Then, okay. Solid or tetrahedron solid elements are of two types. I told no about one is tetrahedron element and another one is hexahedron element. Tetra means what? Tetra means 4, no? Mono means 1, di means 2, tri means 3, tetra means 4. Hedron means what? Hedra means faces. Okay, so tetrahedron element means this is the element having 4 faces. So it is having 4 faces and it is a solid element. So 4 triangular faces are there to form this solid element. 1, 2, backside 3 and bottom 1, 4. Okay. Now hexahedron element, if you see, hexa means what? 6. Okay. So hexahedron element means it is having 6 faces. Okay. So it is having 6 rectangular faces. Okay. You can see this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have seen the dice, no? Which you are playing. Dice is used. That dice, if you see, the dice is having how many faces? It is having 6 faces, no? Okay. It is this hexahedron is also similar to a dice or a brick. If you see a brick element, Okay? The bricks used for construction of buildings, that brick is also having how many faces? 6 faces. All 6 are rectangular faces. जो just hexahedron is element is also similar to a brick element or rectangular solid element, which is having 6 rectangular faces, and those 6 rectangular faces are joined together to form a solid. Okay, so this solid tetrahedron element and also hexahedron elements are used to model the solid components. So triangular elements and tetrahedron elements and hexahedron elements, if you see, hexahedron elements are higher order elements. It will give better results, but the problem is that again, as the nodes are more in hexahedron compared to tetrahedron, due to that more calculation time is also needed. So cleverly, so many people use tetrahedron element only for this modeling of the solid components. And I told that at each node there will be how many degrees of freedom for both tetrahedron and hexahedron? 3 degrees of freedom. That is x displacement, y displacement, and z displacements. Okay, and this tetrahedron element is a basic solid element. Okay, so solid can be formed with the help of minimum 4 triangular faces. Okay, so that is why it is called as a basic solid element. Similarly, triangular element is a basic plane element, because if you want to form a plane, minimum 3 edges are needed. So triangular element is a basic plane element, whereas tetrahedron element is a basic solid element. Okay, these are the different types of elements that are used based on the type of problems in FEM. Okay, are there any doubts still this one? Up to this, any doubts are there? Otherwise, we'll continue.
No, sir.
Next, we'll move on to the size of element. So if you see the size of the element, so what size of the element you have to use? That is what we will be discussing now. Okay. So here, size of the element influences the accuracy of the solution a lot, because I told no, this FEM is a numerical method, and it will always give approximate result. Suppose you want to improve the results, then what happens? You have to go for this more number of elements. Okay, and when you go for more number of elements, definitely calculation time will also be more. Okay, so hence what size of the element you have to use, that is the decision to make the size of the element, to decide the size of the element is very important in finite element analysis. Okay, for example, suppose let me take this problem of plate with a hole itself. Okay, so here this is a plate, and at the centrally there is a hole on the plate, and it is applied with either a tensile load. Okay, like this, it is applied with the tensile load. When you apply a tensile load on this plate, what happens? The stresses will be like this. The stresses at the away from the hole will be less in magnitude, but whereas the near the hole there is a concentration of stresses. Near the hole there is a stress concentration will be there. You have studied stress concentration in design of machine elements 1. Okay, so whenever there is a change, abrupt change in the geometry, or whenever there are any holes or any corners, their stress concentration occurs. No, so here around the hole there is always a stress concentration, so large magnitude of stresses will be there. So around the hole I want more accurate results, but whereas away from the hole I want less accurate results. So I can optimize the size of the elements here. What I can do is, as I need less accuracy, because less stress concentration is away from the hole, so I need less accuracy away from the hole. So whenever a body, this plate fails, it has to fail here only. Okay, it will never fail starting here, it will fail here only. So due to that, what happens? I have to use small sized elements around the hole, and I can go for large sized elements away from the hole. I can use small sized elements everywhere also, but the problem is that if I go for small sized elements, I have to use more number of elements. And if more number of elements are there, more calculation time is needed. Okay, even with the software also, with a very high RAM. But that is why in order to optimize the calculation time, what I can do, wherever there is a possibility of stress concentration, I can go for small sized elements. Wherever there is a less possibility of stress concentration, I can go for large sized elements like this. Okay. The size of element influences the convergence of the solution. Convergence of the solution means what? You know, converging and diverging nozzle, no? Converging means what? It will go from larger to smaller. That is called as converging. So means what? The error between the exact solution and the finite element analysis solution will be very large initially. And converging means what? It goes on reducing when you go on increasing the size of the elements. Means when you go on increasing the, increasing the number of elements, that is decreasing the size of the element. If you increase the number of elements, what happens? The solution will move closer and closer to accurate value. But there is some restriction. Up to a certain number of elements only, the accuracy goes on improving. After that, even though you increase the number of elements also, there is no much increase in the accuracy. Okay, at that point we will stop. Okay, and that number of elements is, or that point is called as convergence point. Is it clear? Achieving convergence is very important in finite element analysis. Otherwise, what happens? Whenever you solve any problem by using finite element analysis software, it will directly give the solution. But you will not be knowing whether that solution is correct or not. How to know that one? By using this convergence. So if the solution converges, then definitely it will be an accurate value. Like that we will be assuming. So that is why what we do, in order to improve the accuracy, we go on increasing the size of the element, number of the elements. When you go on increasing the number of elements, up to a certain point, the accuracy goes on improving. After that point, even though you increase the number of elements, there is no much considerable increase in the accuracy. Means after that, further, if you increase the size of the element, it is useless. Just you are increasing the calculation time, that's all. There is no much improvement in the accuracy. So that is why at that point we'll stop. Suppose initially I divide the body into, say, this body into, say, 10 number of elements. I will get some solution. Then I will increase the number. Instead of 10, I will go for 15. The accuracy will improve, means the solution will be closer to the accurate value. Then I will increase to 20. Then I will increase the number of elements to 25. Then I will increase the number of elements to 30. Like that, if I go on increasing the number of elements, the accuracy of the solution also goes on improving. But after a certain value, for example, suppose after 45 elements, even if I go for 50 elements, there is no much increase in the accuracy. So what I have to stop at 45 number of elements only. And that point is called as convergence point. Okay. And after that, further, you should not increase the number of elements. Even though you increase the number of elements, it is useless. Okay. Instead of 45, if I go for 50, 55 or 60, there is no much increase in the accuracy level. Okay. See here. Sometimes we may have to use different size of the element also. I told no, in the same problem, I have to use different size of the element and even different type of the element also. Here triangular elements may be used. Here triangular elements may be used. Here hexahedral elements may be used. Like that also it is possible. Different types of the elements can also be used in a same problem, and different size of the elements can also be used in a same problem. Here I have used different sized elements, no, because I told that around the hole there is a possibility of stress concentration. So around the hole I will be using smaller sized elements, that is more number of elements, and away from the hole, as the stress concentration is less, I will be going for more number of elements. Okay, this is about size of the element. Here you can see that for a plate with a hole problem shown in below figure, it is discretized into either triangular element or quadrilateral element. You can use either triangular or quadrilateral elements for the discretization process. Okay? That is why commonly in FES softwares, this process is called as meshing. Okay, you see here how it looks. It looks like a wire mesh, no? Wire mesh, Chanigi. It looks like a wire mesh. That is why this process is called as a meshing in finite element analysis. Discretization process is also called as meshing, M-E-S-H-I-N-G, in finite element analysis. Okay. So you can either mesh it with the help of either triangular elements or quadrilateral elements. So around the hole, there is a possibility of more stress concentration, whereas farther from hole, stresses are less. Hence, smaller sized elements are used around the hole and larger sized elements can be used away from the hole. Okay. Then let us move on to the next topic, that is location of nodes. I told you the nodes. These points are called as nodes. How many nodes are there in this problem? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 nodes are there, N1, N2, N3, N4. And how many elements I have used? 1 element, 2 element, 3 element. So I can use 3 bar elements for this problem. Can use 3 bar elements for this problem. Like this. How to divide this body? I can model this body like this. This is the fixed end. Okay. This is one node. Like this, I can use 3 bar elements. What are those? This is element number 1. I will encircle it. This is element number 2. This is element number 3. 3 elements are used and 4 nodes are there. This is node number 1. This is node number 2. This is node number 3. And this is node number 4. Okay. This is application of force. Okay. So I can model this stepped bar. It is a stepped bar problem. I can model this stepped bar by using see. I can model this stepped bar by using 3 elements, 3 linear bar elements. So there are 3 linear line elements are there. No, this is element number 1, element number 2. Even though this is a 3-dimensional body, this stepped bar is a 3-dimensional body. It is having certain cross section. No, suppose it is a circular cross section bar. It is a bar having circular cross section. It is a 3-dimensional body. But if you see that the load applied is along this axis, and the displacement of the nodes also means the body will displace along the x-axis only. X displacement is there, only x displacement. There is no y displacement. Hence, it can be treated as a 1-dimensional problem. Hence, 1-dimensional line elements can be used so that the problem will become simple. No doubt that you can treat it as a solid element and you can go for a tetrahedron or hexahedron elements also. But what happens? As it is a simple problem, you are making this problem complicated. Hence, in order to make this problem simple and solve it, what we can do? We can go for line elements like this. 3 line elements. This is element 1, element 2, element 3. And 4 nodes can be used. And at each node, how many degrees of freedom will be there? Only 1 degree of freedom. That is x displacement. Node 1 cannot move in this direction because node 1 is fixed. Because this surface is fixed. Node 2, node 3 and node 4 can move because of this application of load. So the body will elongate in this direction. So node 2, node 3 and node 4 will move along the x direction, positive x direction. So what is the boundary condition in this problem? Displacement at node 1 is 0. That is at x equal to 0, displacement u equal to 0. That is u1. I can call this as the displacement of node 1 as U1. Okay. Hence, what is the boundary condition in this problem? U1, suppose U1 is the displacement of node 1, U2 is the displacement of node 2, U3 is the displacement of node 3, and U4 is the displacement of node 4. U1 is 0 in this problem. So the boundary condition in this problem is U1 equal to 0. And I want to study now location of nodes, where the nodes have to be placed. Here you can see that if suppose it is a uniform cross-section bar like this, suppose it is a uniform cross-section bar like this, and applied with the axial load like this, then I can uniformly distribute the nodes. Either if suppose you want to use 2 elements or 3 elements based on your accuracy level, what you can do, exactly 2 equal elements can be used like this, because it is a uniform cross-section bar. But whereas here it is not a uniform cross-section bar. Here the cross-section of this bar is more, this bar is less, and this bar is different. So all cross-sections are different. So whenever there is a change in cross-section or whenever there is a change in geometry, there we have to place the nodes. For example, here this is a fixed one. So wherever there is a supports or boundary condition, there also the node should be there. So you have to locate one node there. And whenever there is a change in cross-section, there also there should be one node. Means what? It is a change in geometry. What is that? Change in cross-section means what? Change in geometry. Here the geometry is changing now from here to here. So I have to place the node compulsorily. And here to here also there is a change in cross-section. And whenever there is a application of load also, there should be a node. Here you can see that there is an application of load at this point. So there should be a node at this point. Here there is a fixing. That is a support is there at this point. And here also there should be a node. Okay? So that is why this body I have divided. It is a uniform cross-section bar. Material is also same. Same material is there from here to here. It may be a steel or aluminum. Then I can use uniformly spaced elements as you wish. Okay? But whereas here it is a stepped bar, then I have to choose the nodes exactly wherever there is a joining of 2 steps here, here and here. Okay. And suppose the material is also different. Okay. Suppose this may be a steel, this may be a aluminum, and this may be a brass. Then what happens? There also you have to use different elements and you have to place the node between the 2 types of elements. For example, suppose, no doubt this is a uniform cross-section bar, but suppose here it may be a steel and suppose here it may be aluminum. No doubt the cross-section is uniform. If the cross-section is uniform and material is uniform, I can go for a single element also like this. No need to go for 2 elements. I can use single element if the material is also same. But as the materials are different, this is a steel and this is aluminum, the joining, wherever the 2 materials gets joined, whenever there is a change of the material properties, there also I should place a node here. So this bar can be modeled like this. Okay. Means what? And whenever there is application of load also, suppose there is application of load here. Here also I should place a node. Okay. So remember that nodes should be there wherever there is a change in geometry or change in material property or change in external condition. That is either change in load or change in temperature. Suppose the temperature here is say 30 degrees Celsius, temperature here is say 45 degrees Celsius. There also I have to place the nodes, okay, between them. If it is a uniform bar, you can divide the body into uniform sized elements, uniform length of the element. But if there is change in geometry or change in material property or any application of load is there, you have to place a node at that point. Okay. In that problems, node have to be introduced at these discontinuities. Wherever there is a discontinuity, there the nodes have to be introduced.